just be careful of the pool area here. I know it's a nice day for a swim, so if you'd like to have a swim perhaps later on, you're welcome to. The refreshments will continue on during the eulogies, but if you have an opportunity of getting something to eat now, we really appreciate it. Thank you. To start the eulogies. Lillian? Oh, thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone first for coming, because Anne would have loved to see everyone here. And I wanted some special thank yous for Tony and Richard Hope for helping us out with the burial for Anne. And also Gemma and all the team that she had coming to help us, all the sisters in the congregation, they've done a lovely job. I think you'll all agree it's nice food and they've done a lovely job helping us. And also Camille, because Camille, although she's a granddaughter, she did heaps of work, food prep, and this morning her and I were making wontons in the kitchen, so special thanks to her on such a hard day for her. Also, the rest of the family, like Stephen and Arthur and Kim, because they've done such a good job helping out with this occasion, and everything's gone so smoothly with helping out, sort Anne's things out. And that was really nice, and Eddie too, because Eddie got all the hall organised for us and moved chairs around and so on, and Uncle Colin, because I know it wasn't easy for him to give the talk for his sister. It was really kind of him to do that for us. And also Jane and Emma, because they did the flowers. Jane's my boss and Emma's a sister in the congregation. She did a beautiful job of the flowers for us today. And also Richard, who's just taken off. Richard lives next door and he said we could park on his lawn, so I want to So I thought today, so that I wouldn't get too upset, I'm just going to tell funny stories about Anne, because everyone knows she was such a serious lady. There weren't too many funny stories coming from Anne. But I remember when I first saw Anne, I didn't meet her, but I was only about 15 years old and Stephen had moved to Gisborne to work, and one day he turned up at the meeting at the Kingdom Hall, and I thought to myself, oh, that new Chinese brother, he's got such a pretty girlfriend. And it was Anne, and I didn't realise 2 years later she'd be my mother-in-law. It was so funny. And I told Stephen that story the other night and he thought it was very funny. I should tell you all of it. She was just so pretty. She was very, very attractive well, even as an older person, but as a young person she was stunning, and I think you all saw that on the photo of her on the service order. And the other thing that I admired about Anne, she was really strong as a person. She had strong character. And she used to say she was tough, and she was tough. And I think it was kind of like she needed that toughness, because she suffered so long through her life with illness. She had more years ill than she had healthy, and she needed to be tough. And quite often we'd be at the hospital and the doctors would be telling us, oh, she's not going to make it through this one, and we'd all be around the bed and Anne would wake up and she'd look at us and she'd say, I'm still here. And that's because I'm tough, she said. You get that when you're tough, she said. So I thought I must tell you that too. And the other thing that I loved about her was she was very patient lady. She never got upset about anything. In fact, Stephen told me a funny story I'd never heard till last night, which I'll tell you now because it's very funny. He was showing off to his mother with his driving skills one day, and he was driving around like he does, and the next thing they hit a train. A stationary train, but as he was trying to manoeuvre the car and keep it off the train, he looked across to see his mother and see if she was upset or anything, and he said she just sat there. Not flinching, she didn't scream, nothing. She didn't say, what are you doing? She just sat there. And that's the kind of lady she was. And I told him another funny story. It's a bit embarrassing for me, but he said, I have to tell you. When Chong said, when I first married Stephen, we had to go and live with Stephen's mother for a year, which was very difficult for me being such a baby. And I was so nervous about driving in Wellington in the big smoke coming from the country town of Gisborne. she said to me, I'm going to take you out in the car today so you can learn how to drive in Wellington. Oh, so nerve-wracking. Get in the car. We shut the car. Well, I'm sorry, but I broke wind. And I tell you, it was the worst ever. It was so bad. I thought, what am I going to do? I didn't want to wipe the window down. I didn't know what to do. And Anne just sat there stoically. She never said a word. And she says, when you get to the bottom of an organ drive, you just turn right. She was so patient and good like that. She was really funny. And she expected a lot of herself, but she expected a lot of everyone else as well. She didn't do that. And the other thing was she was so meticulous. Everything she did, perfect. Perfect ironing, perfect folding, perfect. You had to do things properly. You couldn't do, she was a tiger mum for that one. So I just thought that the other, I think there was one other story I was going to tell you, but oh yes, when we were looking through some photos, because when she'd had her first kidney removed, when she was well enough, her parents took her on a world trip, and she was showing me the photos one day, and here were these pictures of Pompeii, and I said to her, oh Pompeii, I've always wanted to go there. Oh, she said, you don't want to go there, it's just all ruins. And that was the kind of lady she was too. It's all ruins. That's just so funny. Yeah, when she said things, they were funny. She was trying to get Tom to do something one day, and he was taking his time, and she said, I haven't got time to nag you all day. It was just what she thought is what she said, and she always meant it in a nice way though. She wasn't being bitter. She always thought she was doing the right thing by disciplining you and saying the harsh things. Sometimes it seemed a bit harsh, but she never really meant it that way. She always had the best intentions, that's for sure. So we'll certainly miss her a lot around here, and I don't want to say too much more because otherwise I'll get upset, but we'll definitely miss her.
Thank you, Lillian, for those funny stories. Giving all the family secrets away, isn't it? It's good that you didn't talk about me. Lots of funny things happen to me too. I'm a bit different from Lillian. I'm pretty straightforward like my mum, so my speech is going to be, to the point. So what can we say about my mum? We can really describe her as a super mum, because you heard about the upbringing she had when they had to leave China to come to New Zealand here. And it was tough, and so that toughness built in her some very, very good qualities. We're talking about spiritual qualities that my mother had. And when you think about spiritual qualities, you can really think about Galatians chapter 5 verse 22, the fruits of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faith, mildness and self-control. Now she had all these to a very good degree. So she was able to pass on a lot of knowledge to us, encourage us to do the right things as well. So I really appreciate that from my mum. She also had very strong faith in the resurrection hope, and that was discussed today. So much so that, and she passed on that knowledge to us. So really her passing away isn't really a big loss. Well, it wasn't a shock to us. It's certainly a loss, but not a shock to us because we knew what was going to happen. She lived her life of 82 years old, and she had a very good fulfillment in life. And so passing away is just the normal process. Unfortunately, it's the normal process in this system that we're living in. But of course, we know that Bible hope gives us a hope for the future. It talks about a time when she'll be resurrected again. And she'll be resurrected to the picture you see in the service order. So she'll not only be a beautiful lady again, but she'll still maintain her spiritual qualities. So that's something that we can look forward to. when my mother is resurrected again. So it's good that you can be here to listen to a bit about the background of my mum. I think Stephen's also showing us sort of a DVD in the room there, which gives us a history of mum's life as well. So you're welcome to go and have a look at that DVD. Okay, so next on the list is Mei Lee. Yeah, she's got to say a few more words. Thank you.
Mama was not the grandmother that I wanted. When I was little, she was always very firm with me. She would make us both breakfast and I could choose toast or porridge, and I often chose porridge because we didn't get that at home. But we could only have sugar or honey and not both, and we could only have 1 teaspoon. One afternoon, Yaya came home and he gave me $50, and Mama came along and took it off me because it was too much money. Playing Scrabble, there were no advantages for us, even though we were children. If we couldn't come up with the words, she would help us if it got too hard, but there were no concessions for the fact that we were children, and as a result, she almost always won. We had to go for long walks to the mall every day because exercise was good for us. And when we got there, if we asked for McDonald's, she would say, 1, it was too expensive, and 2, she could make it better at home. There was a flash cafe, the Eve's Pantry, and she used to take us there and we could look at all the delicate cakes in the window. But we were never allowed to eat cakes from there because there was a bakery further down the road and it was cheaper. So she was always very clear with her disapproval. My wedding was a waste of money. And did I really like all those colours in my hair? So Mama was a tough lady, a strong-willed lady, and for that I will always admire her. I don't know when it happened, but Mama changed. She was sick a lot, and we would laugh that we knew she was feeling better because she disapproved of more things. But gradually she expressed less and less disapproval. She talked often of her regret for the way she had treated Yaya. She told me deeply personal things about herself, and she opened up about her life and her childhood. I started to enjoy my visits with her, having Chinese tea, eating, watching TV and chatting, and it became less about obligation and more about enjoying her company. She had an interesting long life with some unique experiences. In the end, I spent quite a lot of time with Mama, time now that I will treasure forever as my last memories of her. I was fortunate enough to have said everything I wanted her to know, and I was fortunate enough to have had the conversations with her about what her passing would mean to me. I was fortunate enough that in those conversations I found out how much I meant to her, and I will hold on to those memories because now they can never happen again. Where's my backup guy? I'm also very fortunate that there was time for Mama to meet my baby Sasha. I was even more fortunate that Sasha brought her so much joy. When she first saw Sasha, we both cried, and she said to Sasha that she never thought she was going to have the opportunity to meet him. She fell in love with him immediately, and she talked about him all the time and remembered exactly how many days it had been between visits. She thought he was the loveliest baby, and Sasha loved her too, and he smiled and talked to her, and it's as if he could feel how much she loved him. Mama's legacy to Sasha is his middle name, Hoi Kyung. Though a name we didn't initially understand, we have grown to love it, and it has become even more special to us now that Mama is gone. I'm sad that she won't see Sasha grow up, and he will only ever know her from the stories that I have to tell him. But I will tell him that she was a strong lady, a tough lady, and in the end, she was the grandmother I always wanted.
Thank you, Mei Lee. Next on the list that will give a speech is Nathan.
I think Mei Lee put everything succinctly. She's He's pretty much, well, as another grandson. What Maylee said was pretty much all that Mama was in terms of a grandmother to us and also to my other cousins. But everyone here today has had their own experience with my grandma, even perhaps made some memories along the way as well. Maybe she was your sister, maybe your mother, your auntie, your spiritual sister, your friend, your great-grandma, or perhaps like me, your grandma. No matter what kind of relationship you have had with my grandma, you've got memories, small or large, no matter what, you've got them. And that's what you can hold on to. And like everyone here in the audience who remembers their grandma or nana, or in my case, my mama, you would have learned many things. Mama was there right from the start for me, right when I breathed my first breath in this world, in the hospital. From day one, her and Yaya were pillars in my life. Pillars that stayed strong and were always there. Like most grandparents, she was old school, and she was also very traditional. She taught me manners, she taught me life skills, how to be tough, emotionally, and she also taught me how to cook, and also be stubborn. And like most good grandparents, she also spoiled us grandkids as well. You know, I remember when I was going to primary school, back when I was a little kid, my mum and dad, and most likely through the influence of Mama, made me go to Mama's for lunch every single day because she was just down the road from school. So I had lunch at Mama's. At the time, I thought this was so annoying since I was missing out with playing with my friends at school in the playground and just hanging out. But little did I appreciate until I grew up that while all my friends were suckers and eating their snacks and their sandwiches, I got to eat fried dumplings, noodles, and at many times barbecue pork buns. What primary school kid gets to eat that for their lunch? So she was a good cook. And this was because she was old school and she was traditional. And most of the grandkids here will remember how good she used to cook. When my brother and I were a bit more older, her and Yaya took us to overseas, to Bali in Malaysia. And this had a very profound effect on me. And again, little did I realize that these experiences from going overseas would help me appreciate the life we have here in New Zealand. It's not every day a kid gets to see poverty in a third world country firsthand, and what it's like to work a whole day just for a bowl of rice. These are only just some of the brightest memories I have of Mama, and I will never forget what she has taught me, the truth, the wisdom, the life experiences, everything. Even though she was traditional and old school, a westernized kid like me will still remember what those traditions, manners, and that life skill mean. I will endeavour to do my absolute best to pass down to my future family all the things that she has taught me. Like everyone's grandma, her legacy will not be forgotten in this grandson's memory.
Thank you, Nathan, for those touching words. Okay, Daniel, you're next on the list here.
Just like my rest of the cousins, I can vouch for Mama. When I was little, and I used to go over to Mama and Ya's place, she was always doing something. If she wasn't sleeping, she was always doing something. As my other cousins said, my brother said, food was always good, old school. Now, you know, when they make Chinese fish balls, they just pretty much chuck the fish in the machine, comes out fish balls, but, you know, she had 2 cleavers. She had 2.5 hours, bang, 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 bang. You know, that's how she made them. So industrious. Even when her health started to deteriorate, every time I'd go visit, she never once complained to me about how poor her health was and how poor she was doing. She always wanted to know everything that I was doing. And every time, she was so selfless. She always wanted me to be happy, and if I wasn't, She always had the best advice, always worked out. One day, talking to my Auntie Lillian, we were talking about my mama. Never forget what we talked about because it gave me a sense of self-identity, you know. We heard today that she immigrated to New Zealand at a very young age through not ideal conditions. You know, had to be on a ship for 3 months. Then she had to grow up in her country where back then people were less tolerant of Asians. There's a lot of discrimination. Quite hard times. But through all that, she still lived to 84, even with almost half her life, more than half her life, just on one kidney, and a weakened kidney at that. And Auntie Lillian pointed out to me, it's one tough, resilient woman. So, what I'd like to say to my cousins is that we remember our mama or papa because when life is hard, when we're in a pickle, you know, back is against the wall, just remember our mama because no matter what life throws at us, the challenges, we will get through it because it's in our blood, it's in our DNA, it's what we're made of.
Thank you, Daniel. It's okay to cry. I hope you didn't make me cry as well. Okay, now next to give a speech is Camille. Here she comes.
Well, I'm a bit more like Papa and Uncle Arthur. I say a bit less, but I say what I mean. And Papa would have been really pleased to see everyone here today. She really thrived on attention and people being around her. Every time she got sick and she went to hospital, and she had heaps of people around her, you'd think that she'd come right, and then sure enough, usually she did, except for the last time, but she really looked like she wanted to. When Maylee and I were there with our children, she was just so happy to have everyone there and have the little kids. She loved kids and babies especially, maybe because they can't answer back. I inherited my passion for food and my love of cooking for others from Papa. She taught me a lot about food when I was little and growing up, and I really miss the last few years when she wasn't able to be in the kitchen because she wasn't well. And I'm really pleased that she hung on for those last 4 years because we all thought we were going to lose her a few years ago. And she was able to hang on and spend some time with my children and meet Sasha. So that was really cool. That's all.
Thank you, Camille. And next to give the speech is my Auntie Kath, which is Mum's sister.
I wasn't going to say this, but I couldn't resist bringing up the car incident about Anne's driving. But I remember when she first learnt to drive, my father wouldn't send her to driving school and he would teach her himself. Well, I remember the first few times she was okay, but at one time she made too sharp a turn and our big 1936 Chevrolet impacted with the home and it shook it. And Mum was not happy at all. Anyway, at the end, Anne, because she was very determined, she won out and she actually got her licence. But what I'd like to say is, I'd like to say an appreciative thank you to Kimberly, to Lillian, to Eddie, to Stephen, and all the others that have helped Anne and helped her over these many years of illness. Anne was very stoic, and we were always, all of us were brought up in a very tough, stoic way. She showed a very early maturity, Anne, and when she arrived in New Zealand from China, she didn't have very much, and because my mother, my father, he worked in a co-op, and all the wives out there were working, so my mother felt loyal, and she went and supported my father as well, and worked out in the market garden, even though she's never done a day's work in China. So she left Anne to look after me because they arrived in 1939. In 1940 I was born. So Anne, at the age of 9 years old, showed this maturity. So my parents left Anne to look after me. Well, I was only a baby and she had no experience, but Mum trusted her. So Anne used to get a billy, go over to the farmers next door, hop over the gate and bring home this billy full of milk. And she would cook it up and boil it until all the bacteria was killed. But yeah, I suffered for that. So parents still trusted her. So at the age, she took 1 year off school to look after me. She often reminded me of that. I took a year off school to look after her. As long as that was my fault. But anyway, so she was a nanny to me at a very early age. I was just a few weeks old. I didn't thrive at all. And at the end of 1 year, I really resembled, so they're telling me, a skinned monkey. I was red and constipated and hardly slept. And I didn't grow very much. I was only 16 kgs at the age of 12 months. So when you got weight, she was relieved of this job, of course, and I think she was quite relieved as well. Now, Anne suffered many years of illness. I didn't know that because she's 9 years older than I, and she never really talked about herself that much. She was really busy minding my business. She always knew what I wanted, what was going on with my life. So she had well below par health. And the 6 years of dialysis took its toll. And it was a long, really hard battle for her, but she fought hard. And I really admired her for that. She never complained much. She just went on and on and on. She continually supplicated to Jehovah God to help her to endure and to grant her the strength that she needed. So it was her gratitude to Jehovah God that actually helped her to pull through and to cope, and the love from her family. So thank you, Anne, for the fine sister that you were. You were a good role model. You worked hard and you left me a good role model to follow because my parents made me follow the same footstep even though I wasn't like Anne. And the scripture that gives me comfort is the promise found in God's word at Isaiah 25:8, where it says that he will swallow up death forever and the sovereign Lord Jehovah will wipe away tears from all the faces. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Kath. It was interesting to note that Mum developed all the mother skills on someone else, not us. So she got it perfect when she brought us up. Okay, now next is my sister Kim. She's going to relay some messages from my uncle Gordon, my auntie Norma, the Beasy family, and my auntie Rachel, and Dennis Romaine, he's a brother from the Wellington congregation. And also Stan Chen, who's a very close friend of our family.
The following is a letter from our long-time family friend from Wellington, who is married to our cousin Helen. I was able to read this to Mum the day before she passed away. It says, "Dear Anne, most times emails come through with good news, but tonight when I clicked onto Stephen's message, it shocked both Helen and I to the core and brought a cloak of gloom over our house. Although you have been physically distant to us, that made no difference at all to the closeness we feel for you in our hearts. One may have many acquaintances in this world, but very few friends, and Helen and I count you as more than just a friend. I first got to know you when you offered to be a witness to our wedding over 30 years ago with good old Tom, another great friend. You were in Karori then, and exchanges between us were frequent. I thought of you as one of the most attractive Chinese women that I knew, but there was a plus. You had a quiet strength of personality behind you that was sincere, softly spoken and elegant. Tom did choose a lovely lady who, in my mind, seemed to be quite the opposite in nature to his carefree, outgoing ways. We do miss Tom a lot. Despite the soft-spoken exterior, I think you had an inner strength inside that, aided by your religious beliefs, that kept you going through all your hard years. Humility was another factor that became you, but probably most of all was being a great mother and mother-in-law. Everyone loves you. It is as simple as that. Aging. We want to think of the Anne Chong that became our good friend through the years. We want to think and remember the one and only Anne Chong who came into our lives. I'm sure every up there in Stanmore Bay will think the same. God bless you all. Stan and Helen Chun. Next one is from Kim Glissick from the United States. My sincere condolences to the Chong family on your loss. What a wonderful God Jehovah is, that he would give us back our loved ones who have fallen asleep in death. How we all look forward to the resurrection. Stay strong, my spiritual family. This is love coming all the way from the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, Lyndhurst Congregation in Cleveland, Ohio. The next one is from Dennis and Pauline Romain from the Kapiti Coast. Deepest sympathy from my own family and that of Albert and Janet Linden to all of your relatives and of course your nearest family members. We of course remember Anne as a faithful witness of Jehovah from the time of our arrival in Wellington in February 1978. She was a kind and generous sister with a ready smile and greeting, who just quietly went about her business in a modest and caring manner. She was always interested in the welfare of our children, and perhaps unknown to Stephen and Lillian, had a deep respect for you both as a young couple bringing up your own children. Anne will obviously be missed by all those who had the privilege of knowing her. But the wonderful thing is that she will be remembered with fondness by all of us, and most importantly, will never fade in the memory of Jehovah. We indeed look forward to the time when Anne will be with us all again and experience that warm smile and greeting, which to us was a hallmark of her personality. This one is from Auntie Norma, that's one of Mum's younger sisters. She just wrote this to me last night. I'm grieving with you as Anne was a much-loved sister to me. Even though we know that death is inevitable when a person is chronically ill, it still comes as a shock when it happens. We are absolutely helpless when our enemy takes over. Thankfully, Jehovah has made a loving provision that comforts us and gives us hope. I'll be thinking of you all today and wish I could have been with you at this sad time. And one from Aunt Rachel, which came sometime probably early this morning as she's in South Africa. Just a short message. She says, I'm with you all on this sad day. So sad I'm not there to support and grieve with you. You are in my thoughts and prayers. Love to you all. She had difficulty getting through sometimes through the net, so a text was certainly helpful. And from Doreen, that's Mum's youngest sister, Dave, her husband and family, Daniel, Vanita, Darren, Jessica, send all their love and condolences to the family. Stephen, Lillian, Arthur, Rosita, Kimberly, Eddie, and all the nephews and nieces. And to Kath, Des, Colin, May, Norma, Rachel, Gordon, Sylvia, and nephews and nieces. We will miss our dear mother, sister, friend. Her faithful endurance and her bright nature under heavy trial has warmed our heart, and above all, the heart of our loving God Jehovah. Our assurance is that she will be in his memory for the future in God's new world. And one from Mike and Trina, which is Doreen's son-in-law and daughter. Dear family, we wanted you all to know that you are in our thoughts and have been in our prayers during this very sad time. We so much want to be with you all today at the service for Auntie Anne. Our memories of her are of a very faithful sister who despite many trials over the past years has continued to love Jehovah and all those around her. How comforting it is that she has run her course to the finish and is in the safest place, Jehovah's memory. We pray that all goes well today, during and after the service. Raymond and John Davies, my experience, send their love to you as well. And personally, from me, I thank everybody for their expressions, Arthur and grandchildren, and it was really nice to hear the interaction that you had with Mum. And as Ben said, she was very strict, and had a pretty strict upbringing. I do recall that she wanted me to learn the piano, which I did, and Mum would go off and she'd be working, so Arthur was also learning the piano. And sometimes we would cheat. We would move the clock forward to say that we'd done 2 hours or 3 hours of practice. So Mum believed us, and to this day she's none the wiser. But on a serious note, I've just written a short poem because I did have that privilege of looking after her. So this is some of how she felt, and everyone knows how good she was with figures and numbers, and she remembered everyone's birth dates, anniversaries. So your secret is still there. I've got a terrible memory and I can't remember your birth dates or ages, so don't worry. Mum suffered long enough, tied to a machine, an expression she used, an event she wasn't keen. To be precise, for 6 years, 3 months, 18 days. 3 days every week, travelling 186 k's. A 15-hour weekly invasion of her time. It seemed to go on and on. What a bind. Wednesday, 4th March 2015. Relief at last. Now dialysis is truly a thing of the past. With eager anticipation, we will see Mum soon, all thanks to Jehovah's resurrection promise, maybe at noon. Our sorrow and tears of sadness will be replaced with joy and gladness. And lastly, I wish to thank my husband Eddie for all his encouragement and support. And it truly was a privilege in looking after Mum. Also, my grateful thanks to Stephen and Lillian, Arthur, all Mum's siblings, that is my aunts and uncles, Mum's grandchildren and great-grandchildren, relatives and friends that all are here today, for all your support and words of kind, loving encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, and it was nice to hear the comments from our spiritual brothers and sisters from the parts of New Zealand and overseas. I just have a note from another spiritual sister. Her name is Sally Chan. She was in the New Zealand congregation before she moved over to Australia, so she knew Mum very well. And she just had the opportunity of coming back this week to New Zealand, and we had Rosetta and myself had the opportunity to be with her for a day, Rosetta for a couple of days. And so she came to the Chinese congregation in Central, and so some of the brothers and sisters in the Chinese congregation saw her. Anyway, she knew about Mum's death before she came over to back to New Zealand for a couple of days, and this note was posted in Australia a day before she came over. And this note just arrived on Friday, so it'll be quicker for her to bring it with her. But anyway, it's good that she writes this note here. It says here, Dear Arthur, Mei Lee, Nathan, Chloe and Daniel, very soon Aunt Anne would be resurrected and be among the meek and righteous to live forever on earth. May the loving care of family and friends and the hope promised by Jehovah strengthen and comfort you, Sally. So it's very comforting to hear these words from our brothers and sisters. Also like to take this opportunity to give a special thanks to Stephen and Kim, because they were the ones that were mostly involved in looking after Mum. They had made tremendous sacrifices of their time and effort so that Mum can be comfortable. Of course, we know that sometimes our old people, they go to rest homes or places where they're sort of forgotten, but it's not the case with my mum because of the loving support of our family here. So I really appreciate that, and I'd like to personally thank you, our family, to be so supportive to my mum that she can live all her life, or most of her life, and be with the family. So thank you very much for that. Now I'd like to invite Tony Kwok. It's one of our cousins, and he's going to say a few words. Tony knew our mum as a friend, and Alex is our cousin, and he's not able to be here. He's in Australia, so he sent a note over. So Tony's going to say a few words from Alex.
Hi there. It's nice to see you all here. It's been my honour to be asked to read this message written by Alex Chong. He's in Brisbane. It's just something pretty short. It reads, My dear Auntie Anne, although you have left us for the great heaven above, you will never be forgotten. When you met up with dear Uncle Tom, when you meet up with your dear Uncle Tom and your mum and dad, please convey my love and affection to them. During my daily prayers, I state that when my time comes, I look forward to being with them in eternity. Tears of sorrow are with me. Remember what a really nice lady you have been and still are. One day, we'll all meet again with the deepest of love from your nephew, Alex. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony, for those comments. Okay, we have another sister, Atta. She's going to say a few words. She's a very close friend of our family.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, because no doubt the whole family, I'm like this penny that keeps popping in, coming back, as the saying goes. I'm going to read a little something that I wrote, and it says, nearly 30 years ago, I found a big gem, and Chong was a true friend. Like a big diamond, precious, but very, very rare. I can't wait to see her in the new world, because I know she will be there. I will always miss her, and I want to thank her for inviting me to all these different yum chas. So I certainly miss that too. Thank you.
Thanks, Atta. That's the end of the speeches. Does anyone else want to come up and say a few words? Okay.
Perhaps I will.
Okay.
Well, the relationship between myself and my mother was a very simple one. She made the rules, and I never complied with them. So when she said, have you practiced piano? No, I'm not Richard Clayderman, and in those days it was Russ Conway. And have you practiced your Chinese? No, I don't live in China. Have you married a Chinese girl yet? No, I will choose who I will marry, and it won't be a Chinese girl. And have you enrolled in medical school yet? No, I haven't, and I'm not going to. And so we just sort of have those kinds of oppositions, it's really character building, and that's made me the person who I am. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming. Please enjoy the rest of the afternoon and the food. And for the relatives, I think Arthur will have some additional announcements. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. You haven't changed, have you? Okay. Sister Cynthia wants to say a few words. She's been a long-time friend. When Mum was coming into the truth in Wellington, Karori, Cynthia lived in Karori with us, and we had the book study at her place. And so Cynthia has been a long-time friend of the family, and she wants to say a few words.
I first met Anne when she studied the Bible with Elizabeth, and Tom was rather opposed at that stage, in fact very, I think. So they came to my house to study. Unfortunately, Elizabeth did not like cats, and I had a cat that seemed to hang around her every time they came for the study. But it was wonderful to see Anne make such good progress, and of course she was baptised in the early 70s. And so we used to climb the hills of Karori and Wellington in all weathers with our ears freezing, doing the witness work. But we spent probably hundreds of hours together doing that in Wellington. As everybody has said, she was a wonderful cook. She was very hospitable, so we were often there for lovely Chinese meals, which absolutely ruined me for going to a Chinese restaurant because they just didn't compare. And she taught my eldest daughter how to make the dough for the pork buns, or bao, I think you call them. And I remember her making those and kneading that dough. It seemed to go on forever. But she was a very loyal friend, and have memories of her when she lost her first kidney in Wellington Hospital, and it seemed to be a long road to recovery then. But as they've all said, she's a very strong woman, and she was a very faithful friend and a very faithful witness to Jehovah. So it was my privilege when she was having her dialysis at Waitakere Hospital. I used to often go on a Saturday afternoon and sit with her, and we'd have a laugh and talk about old times and our families and things. So yeah, really miss Anne. She was a good and faithful friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Your Chinese is better than mine. Okay. Does anyone else want to say a few words? All right. Oh, that concludes the eulogies. You're welcome to stay further here, continue with the refreshments. At 2 o'clock, we're going over to Snapper Rock, the burial site where Mum will be buried. There's maps of where to go over at Snapper Rock. Those maps are over on the table just out in the foyer there. So you are welcome to come over there and look at that burial. Just a reminder that at 6 o'clock this evening there's dinner for the family members. The address for the dinner tonight at 6 o'clock it's called the Haka Hut, Unit 21, 22, 44 William Pickering Drive, Albany, Auckland. So the addresses are on the table in the foyer as well. So those close family members, you're welcome to come along for the meal. Okay, so that concludes this part of the program, and I'd like to extend my thanks for all to be here. It's a real good encouragement for us all to be here to discuss our hope of the future, where we can look forward to see Mum again. Thank you very much.